Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our Career Connections webinar. We're just going to give it a few minutes before we get started. Thank you to everyone who's just joining us. Again, we're just going to give it a few more minutes before we go ahead and get started. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our Career Connections webinar. My name is Brent Giangregorio, and I will be your host today. We're very excited to partner with Hannah McGowan Coaching today. Before we get started, though, I just wanted to talk about a few housekeeping items. Today's session is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel within 48 hours. As well, we'll send a link to the recording along with the presentations to everyone who registered for today's session. Because this is a webinar, all lines are muted, but you can ask questions using the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. As we move through the presentation, feel free to type in your questions in that Q&A box, and we'll leave about 10 minutes at the end of the session for questions. As well, there'll be some interactive pieces to the webinar where Hannah may be asking some questions or asking for some feedback from you. And again, feel free to put those directly in that Q&A box that you should see at the bottom of your screen. Okay, so for our speaker today, we have Hannah McGowan. She's a corporate trainer and coach with her own business, Hannah McGowan Coaching. After we hear from Hannah, we'll go through Q&A and then we'll wrap up, and then there'll be a short survey at the end as well. Your feedback is really important with us. So once we end the webinar, a survey will pop up on your screen automatically. So if you could complete that survey, we would really, really appreciate it. It helps us with our future webinars and our programming. Before I turn it over to Hannah, I just want to take a few minutes to tell you a little bit more about the Women's Resource Center. The Women's Resource Center has been empowering women in Manatee and Sarasota counties since 1979. We currently have 3 centers across both counties, one in Bradenton, one in Sarasota, and another in Venice. We serve over 1,700 clients a year and deliver over 5,000 hours of programming. So our goal at the Women's Resource Center is really to engage, educate, enrich, and empower women of all generations. We're really a place where women can call when they're not sure where to turn to for help. To do that, we offer our clients resource advising, we offer mental health counseling, we've got career services, career closets, educational workshops, programs, and scholarships, as well as legal and financial consultation and education. Now, since this webinar is about careers, I'll talk a little bit more about our career services. Our career coaching program, first of all, offers individual assistance in preparing for a successful job search. So that can include career discovery, resume preparation, interviewing techniques, networking skills, and much, much more. So if you are looking for a job, you're looking to change jobs or careers, we encourage you to sign up for our career coaching program to meet with a career coach to start that journey. We have resume writing coaches as well. So if you need help with creating a resume, revamping your resume, again, this is something our career coaching program can assist with. Additionally, we offer computer tutoring and training. We offer help with navigating online job sites, uploading resumes, and computer basics and Microsoft Office applications. We currently have 3 career closets, one in each of our locations, where you can come and pick out free clothing and accessories. So if you're attending a job interview, have you just secured a new job and you need work attire, we encourage you to visit our career closet to be able to pick out that clothing. We also serve clients that may need clothing for any reason. So if you need clothing and it's not related to a career, you're certainly still welcome to visit our career closets. And they are currently open Monday through Thursday from 11 to 3. And then additionally, we have different workshops and webinars such as this one that we help facilitate in helping individuals with their career. Now, again, if you'd like to ask a question, click on the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll save some time at the end for questions and answers. And then as a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, so you can watch the replay in case you missed any information. We'll send the replay via email in 24 to 48 hours to everyone who registered, include any flyers, presentations, and other materials from the presenters. And as I mentioned, when the webinar ends, you'll see a survey on your screen. We ask that you complete the survey so we can understand how we can improve. We want to thank you so much for attending today. With that said, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to our fantastic presenter, Hannah.
Thank you so much, Brent. I am thrilled to be here with all of you today. I want to start by just sharing some gratitude for the Women's Resource Center. Y'all do such incredible work across this community, and thank you for all that you do. And as Brent shared, there is a incredibly thorough range of career support that the Women's Resource Center offers. And it ranges in needs of what type of job support we're looking for. People who are looking for long-term careers where they can align their purpose with their job, people who are looking for volunteer opportunities, people who are overwhelmed by what might be coming next, people who are looking for a job that they need immediately so that they can be paying bills. And so there's a whole range of needs that the Women's Resource Center supports you with. And today we are focused on that final need, those folks that are looking for jobs really quickly. That said, a lot of the tools and a lot of the strategies we're going to be talking about are transferable. So even if you have some of those other needs, don't go anywhere because this toolbox that you're going to leave with is going to be incredibly helpful for you as well. So as I said, you are going to leave these next 45 minutes with a toolbox of some tangible strategies, some real action items that you can take. And it's really across 3 priorities or 3 focus areas. The first is how to leverage your network, how to leverage your social capital in a really authentic and meaningful way. The second is learning how to crush that resume drop off. When you go into a business and you hand someone your resume, how do you make sure that they read it and consider you for a job? And then the third is to share additional resources in this community that are available to you outside of the Women's Resource Center. So 2 logistic things that I think Brent has covered pretty clearly, but the first is there are a couple times I'll prompt you to use the Q&A function. So if you are seated and not driving or walking somewhere, I encourage you to use that. The second is this is going to be interactive. I'd love for you to take notes and write down thoughts and ideas as they come to you. That said, please don't be stressed about writing down everything that you see on the screen. We are going to send out a toolkit of sorts with a lot of the key information for you to leverage in follow-up. All right, we're going to dive right in, starting with your network. So people or social capital are some of your most powerful and strongest resources in the job search process. Now, to effectively leverage your network in this process, we have to first understand what our own barriers are to networking quote unquote. And for many people, the key barrier is actually our mindset to it. So what I would love for you to do right now, using that Q&A function, is to share what is that automatic thought that comes to mind or that feeling when you hear this word networking. Would love to hear from everybody on what is coming up. And Brent, I'm losing access to the Q&A function. If you're able to see it and wouldn't mind sharing out some of the results in there, I'd love to hear.
Yes, of course. So someone wrote Facebook contacts.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we've got Facebook contacts.
Another individual, I'm finding myself thinking that I'm too old to be starting over.
Okay. What comes to mind for you, Brent, when you think of networking?
I think of, sometimes it comes to mind like schmoozing a little, which doesn't have a great connotation. So it sometimes feels like it can be sort of forced or fake in a way when trying to network.
Mm-hmm.
Another attendee said people probably think I'm more qualified than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Another panic because I don't have a robust local network. And then, asking people for jobs, basically, it's can be uncomfortable.
Yeah. So there's so many different feelings that come up for us, and there are a lot of different, perhaps, assumptions as well as realities. So it sounds like some people are thinking of tangible techniques and strategies that they can use to network. Other people have like true deep-seated feelings of like it feels transactional or it feels uncomfortable because I'm asking for help. I'm feeling too old. I'm feeling panicked because I feel like I don't actually have a network. Um, it's stressful. So there's a lot of different thoughts. And so it's important to acknowledge what is it that is blocking me perhaps from networking effectively. And then you can put the right strategy in place. I think four of the trends that I'm hearing a bit from your answers are first, it's uncomfortable to ask for help. And I think it's giving yourself a bit of a mantra, for lack of a better word, of everybody needs help. Everybody who are in their current role almost have done it because of the people who have helped them in that process. A second sort of trend is like, I'm stressed because I don't know what to do. I don't know how to move forward. I don't know how to network. I'm not good at it. I'm introverted. I'm shy. The mantra I might give you in this case is networking is a skill, and there are tools that can help you in this process to hone that skill. Another one, and Brent kind of touched on it as well as some of our other attendees, it can feel like kind of icky, kind of schmoozy, kind of transactional, like I need to get something from somebody else in order for this to work, and that feels inauthentic. And so I actually don't use this word networking anymore with a lot of the clients I work with. We call it relationship building. And if you shift that focus from I need to network in this transactional way to I'm building a connection with this person, that helps. And then the other one I'm hearing a bit is like this overwhelmed panic, stress. I don't know where to begin. I don't think I have much of a network. I'm too old. I shouldn't be out there networking, right? And so it's keeping in mind that it's not just who you know, but who they know. And that is the scope or the size of your network. So to make this real, these are just some ideas of the different people in your life who are in your network. And again, it's reminding yourself it's not just these people and the ones that I have a personal connection with, but who these people know. And so if you are seated, I encourage you to take a minute and just start writing down names of people that are coming to mind as you're looking at this list. Names of people who perhaps have been supportive of you in the past, who you have really good working relationships with, who you had good connections with. Start writing down some of those names of folks who might be able to support you. And again, these might be people who are not as obvious, but it's who they know, who might be able to connect you with opportunities. So just take another 30 seconds or so. And again, this is an exercise you can come back to. Now, once you've kind of thought through what is my barrier to networking, and then how can I kind of create a target list for myself? How do I create a list of people who I can, reach out to and see if I can find opportunities with? There's three sort of steps or three sort of action items that I recommend to folks. You can, of course, do online searches. You can use job boards. There's a lot of online resources for job hunting. But if you are leveraging the people in your network, you're going to have a much higher rate of success. And so first and foremost, you want to just start telling everybody that you are open to work. And you can do this in two ways. One, you can email them, LinkedIn message them, call them, text them, right? Or when you're seeing them in person, you can have that conversation and you can bring it up. And putting that out, planting that seed that you are open to work helps get people's minds working on, oh, interesting. I didn't realize you were looking for work. As things come up, I will keep you in mind. And so in that conversation, beyond saying you're open to work, you want to share what you're looking for specifically. And so that might include the amount of hours per week you're working, where you want to work, what field you want to work in, what type of job you're considering. And it's okay if that answer is, I don't know, but I want to have conversations with folks to learn about their career paths too. In addition to telling them what you're looking for, you want to ensure that you are asking them if they know of any openings anywhere. And you're asking them, do you know of any good employers? You're asking them, do you know any business owners locally? And again, that gets the person in your network thinking more critically about who is in their network so that they can make connections for you. If they do name somebody or name an opportunity, you can ask the question, are you willing to make an introduction to that person on my behalf? More often than not, their answer will be, of course, not a problem. So that brings us to the second step in the process, where you can offer to draft that introduction. So if it's over email or over text, you want to make it as easy as possible for your network to help you. And a powerful way to do that is say, I will take this off your to-do list. I will write that email introducing who I am and what I'm looking for you. So all you have to do is click send. And so that is a really helpful way to make sure that your network actually follows through in what they have said that they will help you with. The final piece of that process to keep control of it is to set some due dates. So if someone says, Brent offers, yeah, Hannah, I'll connect you with my cousin who works in hospitality. I might say, Brent, thank you so much. I'm going to draft an introduction for you. When feels like a good due date for that? When feels like a reasonable time for you to send that introduction out? And so you're creating sort of a timeline and accountability that feels realistic for that network person who's helping you out. And so you can always say, and if I don't see that email come through or I don't see that introduction come through, I'll just send you a kind reminder for it to go out. And so what it does is it keeps the ball in your court, to use that metaphor, where you are keeping control and ownership of the process to make sure that things keep moving down the line. Now, in these networking conversations, folks are often going to ask for your resume. They are going to ask for this marketing tool. And so there are hundreds of resources and webinars and workshops out there about your resume. My biggest piece of advice is to treat it as a advertisement for your strengths. This is an opportunity for you to brag and be confident in the impact that you make at jobs. Here are two of my go-to strategies on how to do that. The first is to leverage keywords. So when I say keywords, that means the literal word for word that you are seeing in a job description, you also put in your resume. And this works on two levels. It works for the, online job application processes because the algorithm will pick up those keywords, the computer will pick up those keywords. But it also works when you're working with other human beings because they don't need to translate what it is you're saying with what it is that they are looking for. So for example, if on a job description it says a responsibility will be to lead a team to submit projects on time, your resume might currently say managed a group of people to execute on projects. Those are the same thing. So all you need to do is change your resume point to align with what that job description says. And so you're just helping whoever is reading that resume connect the dots much easier. You're making it a very easy lift for them so that they don't need to kind of puzzle piece your experience together. And instead it's an automatic, oh my gosh, she has done something that perfectly aligns with what we need her to do. And so there's a process here on the screen on how to do that is you can actually go through the job description and circle what are the keywords that I want to start using in my actual resume so that I can customize it for this specific job. The second resume strategy is to focus on outcomes. So one of the biggest pitfalls that I see in resumes is that people will often highlight their responsibilities or their duties. So like the one I just gave, managed a team of people. That is a duty. That is something that is an expectation of you in your job. To set yourself apart, you want to talk about the results that you create, the outcomes that you are responsible for. So, for example, if you are working at a grocery store or a restaurant and you are working the checkout register, instead of a resume point that says, manage the checkout register, you would say, what are the results that I drove? What were the outcomes? And it might be things like you increased efficiency. Like your line is always the one that is moving most quickly. Or you might be the person who has built really trusted relationships with regulars that come through there. So instead, your resume point is going to be, I increased checkout line efficiency and built trusted relationships with regulars. And then you talk about how you did it, right? By memorizing common codes for fruit and vegetables, by asking for team support, by having conversations with customers. So there's a really powerful shift that you can do with your resume by focusing on those results. And so it's beyond just using action verbs. I know a lot of folks are like, use action verbs, and that is powerful, but it's making sure those action verbs are describing what the manager, what your boss can expect from you when you are on the team. It's much more exciting to hire someone that says, yeah, I increase the efficiency than it is to hire someone that says, yeah, I managed a checkout register. So this is both of these resume strategies take a little practice and they take a little bit of time. And that is where the Women's Resource Center can be really helpful to spend time with you on it and to go draft through it. And I know it's exciting to get to a point with your resume where you're like, oh, that is done. I'm so excited that's off my plate. If you're focusing on these strategies, it's gonna make that done thing feel even more powerful. So I encourage you to draft and spend a little time focusing here. Now, as we mentioned, it is a really solid strategy to take your resume to local businesses, places that you would be interested in working, and to drop off your resume, right? It can be a really helpful strategy to go in person and hand them your resume. Now, for anybody who has bosses or anybody who has had experience in some of these businesses, these business owners have a lot going on, and it's quite rare actually for your resume to end up in their hands and then end up really considering you for an opportunity. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to make sure someone actually reads your resume and how to make that effort of you walking around town or busing or driving around town feel meaningful and feel powerful and actually get some interviews out of it. Here's kind of a step-by-step process. The first is to greet whomever is in there. So whether it's the boss or whether it is somebody working there, whatever it is to have a conversation, a meaningful one, with whomever you are seeing there in front of you. After that, you have a little conversation. You can ask to speak with the hiring manager. If that person is unavailable, this is another tactic of keeping the ball in your court. You want to ask what day and time they will be available so that you can come back and speak to them. This is the power of those face-to-face interactions over just a piece of paper. If you are able to speak with that hiring manager, that's where you can introduce yourself and share your resume. And here's a little sentence that I think is incredibly powerful. I'm confident that I would be an asset to your team. Might you have any openings, right? Come right out and ask what type of opportunities might be available. If they say no, not right now, again, keep the ball in your court. Ask more questions to understand when there might be more opportunities, when might be a good time for you to come back. And you can also ask if there are other folks in their network, you're networking again, who are hiring, who are looking for qualified candidates. If you get to a point in this conversation where the person says, yeah, we're hiring, you can offer in that moment and be prepared for an interview to ask if it's a good time to discuss your candidacy. And so what this does, this process of building these relationships, of being clear of what you're looking for, being clear of how much of an asset you would be to that team, what it does is builds that personal connection that is so much harder to ignore than handing somebody a piece of paper that may or may not end up in their hands. I mentioned elevator pitch in that previous slide. This is essentially the formula that you can leverage when you are answering that question, that obnoxious question, tell me about yourself, right? Or when you say, hi, my name is, what comes after that? I know for me, when I first started networking, it was like, how do I answer that question, right? Like, I've just been in school, right? I don't know how to talk about myself. I don't know how to pitch myself or articulate who I am and what it is I'm looking for. And so this is a kind of a powerful formula, and we're going to build it together. So again, if you're seated, you can kind of go through this together and you can start taking some notes. But the toolkit we send out will have some more probing questions on how to develop this yourself. So the first step is to figure out, what is my career or job history? And that includes your years of experience, what industries you work in, and what type of responsibilities you take on. And so this could be, I have 15 years of experience in the hospitality industry, managing teams of client-facing people, right? So hospitality is a pretty big umbrella. That might capture hotels, it might capture restaurants, it might capture even some customer service type roles. So it's thinking about, how do I create sort of a trend or sort of an umbrella for myself that gives my history a theme or a focus. Then we shift to currently pursuing. I'm looking for opportunities, in what field, at what level. And you can literally say, which leverage my strengths. So I'm looking for opportunities actually outside of hospitality. I'm looking for opportunities in corporate offices. And I'm looking at sort of a, junior level, not entry level, but a junior level type position that leverage the strengths that I have honed across my 15 years of experience in hospitality. Then we move to outcomes. And this is what we were talking about a bit before, but it's your answer to the question, like, when I'm on the team, we accomplish what? Like, when you are there, what sets you apart? What is something that's important to you to drive forward? For a lot of people, it might be efficiency. For some people, it might be results. For other people, it might be customer service and building good client relations. There's a whole range of different outcomes that you can think about. And then you want to make sure you're highlighting your strengths. And so, again, that resource we're going to share out has some, probing questions to help you uncover what your X factor might be, what it is that sets you apart. But a good way to think about it is, what do you get compliments about most? Or what lights you up? What are the things that make you feel powerful? So if we put this all together, right, it's, my name is Joan. I have been working in the hospitality industry for over 15 years, supporting client experiences. I'm looking for opportunities in the corporate world at a, junior management level that leverage my strengths. When I'm on a team, you can be sure that anytime a customer complaint comes through or a customer has a need that isn't being met, I make things happen. I work with my team and the resources around me to make sure that customer leaves having a really good experience. And the way I do that is both through, my empathy strength, my ability to observe and understand and anticipate what people need, as well as my communication skills. I'm excellent at communicating internally and externally to make sure that people are clear on what needs to happen next. So that kind of becomes your trajectory of like, hello, my name is, and then you share this pitch, this powerful way to set yourself up so that someone can respond and very clearly be like, okay, I know what I'm getting from this person, and I have ideas on the types of questions that I can be asking them next. Now, we've mentioned a lot of different strategies, and we're going to have some time for some other Q&A, but just wanted to remind you all that you are not alone. There are so many phenomenal resources in this community to meet needs across the entire career support spectrum. And so Brent pretty thoroughly discussed what the Women's Resource Center offers. But I can't stress enough how powerful these coaches are and how powerful these resources are for you. So I highly encourage, if anything feels overwhelming or you're looking for some support in managing the job search process, there's some great resources here. The second resource I will bring up to you is called Express Employment Professionals. And I actually went through this just to see what the experience was like. And what you do is you submit an interest form as a job seeker online. And then you meet with somebody at their offices who asks you questions about the types of jobs you're looking for, your experience, and then you're added to a list so that when employers are looking for staff, when employers are looking for people to work for them, you are on the list of people that can be connected to that job. Also, in working with express employment professionals, you get added to a newsletter, and they very consistently send out opportunities primarily for temporary jobs, but there's a weekend catering opportunity or a 6-week forklift driving opportunity. So there's a lot of really solid opportunities that pop up through that newsletter as well. The next I'll mention is CareerSource. They have branches across counties. And so CareerSource Suncoast does a lot of interview prep and job referrals as well. They also have a sort of available jobs in the community posting. So that's a great place to go if you're looking for an online job board instead of Indeed or LinkedIn or one of those. CareerSource will have much more targeted to our community and our location. Another resource I'll bring up for you is the public library. They have computer access for you. They have a number of different resources for you if you are a more independent worker. They'll have books and online tools that you can leverage. They also offer a lot of free events where you can network, where you can meet people, where you can see different things that are going on in the community. You can learn different tools or different softwares or a whole number of different things. So I would check out their website and their calendar to see what's coming up. Another is considering any faith communities. So if you are a practitioner of any faith, it is just a kind reminder that those communities really have a number of different resources, and it ranges place to place, but a lot of support exists there for you as well. The final one I will bring up is the Goodwill. The Goodwill, especially for folks with disabilities, offer really thorough job training programs and employment. They also offer a lot of transportation should you need that to get to those offices. In addition to the job training, they also have some job placement folks and some folks that support on resume writing, and there are some powerful resources in there as well. So what I would encourage you to do is to write down what's one key action item. Which of these strategies am I going to leverage coming out of today? Because you might be saying to yourself, I'm going to do all 5 of these, or I'm going to do 10 of these, or I'm going to do none of these. But I would pick one. Focus on one that you are going to invest in, right? Give yourself something reasonable and realistic for you to focus your energy on instead of trying to tackle too much. Because when it gets to be too much, then it's overwhelming and then we don't do any of it. So for any of you who have done, New Year's resolutions and are feeling that, this is a key strategy, is to focus on one. The second thing is Brent will be sending out that toolkit that I mentioned that has some exercises, that has some drafted email introductions, that has some questions and some processes for you to figure out your elevator pitch. So there's a lot of resources in there, also including questions that you can ask your network, right? Especially if you are not sure what you want to be doing next, and you're looking more for some relationship building to build up who you know here. There's some great networking questions and approaches to how you're thinking about relationship building in the community. So that is all from me, and I would love to open it up to questions and seeing what feels, what I can clarify or additional questions that we didn't touch on today.
Thanks so much, Hannah. As Hannah mentioned, please put questions in the Q&A box, questions, feedback, any thoughts related to her presentation. Hannah, we have one there right now, which is sort of related to the elevator pitch.
Mm.
And the question or the thought was sort of switching up the order and mentioning your strengths third and outcomes last. Since when you're talking about what you're pursuing, you kind of mention which leverage my strengths. So why not go right into strengths and then finish with outcomes and leave them with that thought of the outcomes you produce? What are your thoughts on that?
I love that idea. I love that idea. And I think that as you are building your elevator pitch, you want it to sound natural. You want it to sound like it's actually coming from you and that you're not reading off a script. So that's one sort of caveat that I will share. Another, I think that's a brilliant idea, and I'm gonna make some shifts to my flow as well. But to land with, here are the outcomes you can expect from me, I think is really powerful. Um, because that gets them excited, right? It gets them excited about, okay, I want this person on my team. I think that where the value is when you're talking about ending with strengths is it allows then the conversation to move to, okay, tell me a little bit more about those. Tell me about a time in which you use that strength. Give me an example of that, which you can also do with the outcomes piece. So I think to kind of find a flow that works for you, that tackles those four components, is how I'd recommend it. It's not as strict
Yeah.
as it might have appeared.
And I think I would add, practice that elevator pitch, obviously, right? Practice it with your friends, practice it with your family members, practice it in the mirror. Make sure you, like you said, it's got to feel comfortable and not necessarily scripted. So I think practice is a key component of that as well. Hannah, so another question here. So, what if you're 72, you really need to get a job? How can you sort of answer that without overstating your need?
Mm. So one of the things I think that can be tough about quote unquote networking is that it feels transactional. Like we're often doing it when we really need to. And so when we need someone to help us, we need someone to get a job, we feel that urgency, and that requirement to get a job. And so I think, just one plug that you want to continue networking even when you don't need it. Now, trust me, I have been on the side of things where I haven't networked and maintained relationships, and then I need something, and that is hard. And so I think, a way to do it, is again just to keep your mindset on relationship building. Keep your mindset from a place of, I want to get to know you. I want to understand about your career path. I want to understand about your organization. I want to understand what the jobs available at your organization look like. Because what that does, if you're keeping your mindset on relationship building, it allows you to be curious and engaged in that conversation in a different type of way. And so if somebody has an opportunity for you, it will come up naturally, right? And it will come up through that conversation. And there will be more ideas that come up through that conversation because you're being curious. And so it's more so thinking about your mindset going into it and trying to manage or navigate the stress that you might be feeling in that process. And so if that didn't quite answer your question, let me know. add a follow up there, and we can tackle it. But you don't necessarily, I think, with trusted folks in your network, you can communicate that urgency, right? I need something pretty quickly. But if it's someone perhaps you don't know as well, you just focus on being curious, focus on building a relationship with them, and continue to build your network outside of that. It's a quantity of quality conversations.
Right. Excellent. Another question here. How would you adjust your resume and elevator pitch when you're trying to switch career paths or industries?
Mhm. This is a such a powerful question. I work with a lot of clients who are doing this, and the short answer is focus on your transferable skills, right? So when you are focusing on your strengths, when you are focusing on your outcomes, those are things that can work across a lot of different places, right? So if I am somebody, we can go back to that hospitality example. If I'm somebody who is a strong communicator and I have a lot of empathy, my goodness, there are hundreds of thousands of jobs that require those two strengths. If I'm somebody who builds trusting relationships with clients and turns somebody around who is feeling pissed at their experience, and then they leave feeling like, oh, I was listened to and I was heard and I love this company now, that also is something that can work in a number of different settings. So when you're talking about shifting fields, your strengths, your skills, the outcomes that you promote can work in other fields. And so it's focusing on those instead of the industry specific knowledge. So, or industry specific content and words. And so it's kind of, that's where the trend like umbrella industry, you might shift away from I've been working in hospitality to I've been working in client service, right? Like give yourself more of a high level umbrella that captures the things that you do well across industries.
Yeah.
Content, the what, or the specific processes can be learned much easier than the skills that you have harnessed throughout your entire career. So
Yeah.
find value in what it is you bring to the table.
Excellent. Another question here, Angela. So, one of our attendees is a solo parent of a young child, and unfortunately, that sometimes can mean canceling often appointments when the child is sick or other issues come up. She's concerned that she's perceived as flaky, and she's been slow to realize how she's been contributing to that image. Is there a way to change that image, or is it just better to focus on building new connections?
It's such a thoughtful question. And I think it's one, giving yourself some grace and some compassion, right? You are raising a human being, and that is important and powerful work. And I think sharing that with your network, right? And saying, I apologize, owning it, right? I apologize that we've had to shift this meeting um, last minute. Is there a way that we can, reschedule for another time? I wonder if perhaps doing things over phone call or over Zoom even can help in that process so that you don't have to be going in person all the time. And so perhaps there's kind of a workaround for you in that process. When it comes to your brand, I think as long as you own that, I apologize that this got rescheduled, right? That is all that you can do. That is all that you can control in this situation. And if someone is not going to understand that that is an important part of your life, that is an important priority for you, they might not be the strongest connection for you, and that's okay. But I think, for the most part, invest in those people who understand, and continue to invest in those relationships that you have with them.
Yeah, fantastic. Just to follow up here, Hannah, to one of our attendees that was 72 and is looking for a job.
Mhm.
Um, she was sort of originally asking how to answer an employer when they're asking why she wants the job or why she wants to go back at work to work at her age. Um,
Mm, got
with
it.
yeah,
Got it. Um, and so that is one I think that you can honestly reflect, why do I want to go back to work? And if it's financial, it's financial, and you can share that, right? I am looking for the opportunity to have a consistent income. um, there are other things I think you can add to that answer, and it might be, I am looking for the opportunity to have a, personally, to have a routine and to use my brain every day. But I think the most powerful answer is to say, I have had an incredibly long career where I have harnessed so many skills, and I am not done sharing those skills. I want to contribute to this organization by sharing those skills and by doing XYZ to help this team or serve this mission or accomplish this outcome. And so that's the most powerful answer, I think, is to put your age to the side and put any fear that you might have of people making judgments or assumptions about it to the side, and remind yourself, I am a qualified candidate. I have strengths that I can offer this organization. I would be an asset to this team. And go into those interactions knowing that and believing it for sure, and not feeling like you need to justify your age or defend your age or explain your age or why you're working. Like, take that off the table entirely. If somebody's asking about it, that's illegal anyway. So I think focus on, any of, remove the personal stuff, why you personally want a job financially or to use your brain or to have a routine, off the table, and focus on, hey, pretend you're in your, mid 30s and you're applying for a job. How would you position yourself in that case? And it's the same approach.
Right. Fantastic. So another question here, Hannah. So, what happens if you're uncomfortable or you sound foolish, no matter how much you sort of practice that elevator pitch beforehand? You always sort of stumble until you meet the person interviewing you and it feels right.
So it's a bit of like, it's uncomfortable even after you've practiced and you're in front of the person, and then it's like I'm stumbling when you're in front of them.
I believe so, yeah.
So our there may be something going on here, like physiologically, right? Our bodies, when we subconsciously are tracking something feels unsafe or something feels uncomfortable, can kind of sabotage us, right? So you might notice that you're getting like sweaty palms, or your heart starts racing, or your face gets hot. Like, I would pay attention to what sort of you're feeling in your body, and that will tell you what sensations are happening. And so for many people, it's nerves. Like, I'm going to sound like an idiot, or I'm going to sound foolish. And as this is coming out of my mouth, it's sounding more foolish. And what am I doing? And so you're getting into your head. There are a number of different strategies, I think, that can help. One is to have your pitch written down in front of you. And it's not necessarily that you're going to read it, because you know it, you've practiced it. But it's that you're telling yourself, in case I blank, in case I forget what I'm saying, I have this here. It's a backup in case I need it. And so that can be a powerful tool in that process that you can have in front of you.
Yeah.
Another one, when you're practicing, is to not just practice alone, but practice with other people. Practice with other humans, and practice seeing how they respond, what their facial reactions are doing. Because when you're alone, you can kind of say it out loud and it feels like a script and you can get into a rhythm. But when you're actually face to face with another human being, they are probably doing things that you didn't plan for. Like, they're kind of scrunching their brow, or they're looking away, or they're doing something that is alerting you in the moment to, oh my gosh, they're not listening, or oh my gosh, I sound silly, when that's really not what's happening. It's just another human being listening to you. So that's another area where you can practice on that front.
Beautiful.
There's
Three
also,
more
I will just say really quickly, some like breathing and some meditation
Yeah.
that you can do in advance. Anytime I'm going into a big meeting or what have you, I just take a few deep breaths and I repeat something to myself that feels powerful, like, I know what I'm saying, or I am going to be an asset to this team, or whatever sort of affirmation you need to remind yourself how much you've practiced, how powerful you are, all the work that you've invested in it, to try and calm your nervous system down a little bit. The breathing can help with that.
Absolutely. I have three more questions here that we've got. So, what do you recommend for someone who's maybe already done all this and is still not finding a job?
Mm-hmm. First of all, that is hard. The job search process is hard. And I hope that you are proud of yourself for investing your time and your energy and your brain power into this and trying all these strategies. It is incredibly brave and powerful to be going through these process and learning new things and strategizing. And so first, I think give yourself a pat on the back, and you might say, well, I don't deserve that because I haven't gotten a job. Untrue. The things that you can control are things that you are focusing on, and that is incredibly powerful. Now, post pep talk, what do you do? If you have not been to a career coach at Women's Resource Center, at one of the other locations that I mentioned, I would highly recommend doing that, because there could be a number of different opportunities for you to just hone in on or maximize in a different way. And so that person can help you figure out, where do I maybe miss the opportunity? Is it when I'm interviewing? Is it when is it something with my resume and not getting through on job boards? Is it how I'm communicating my strengths? Like, there could be a whole range of things or different strategies that you might not have honed yet that they can support you in. And so instead of, like, the throwing the spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, a career coach can help you be like, let's focus on this one area and invest there more intentionally and in a more targeted way.
Yeah, excellent. Um, so what happens? There's a situation here that someone's asking if you've ever become familiar with, and that's if the interviewer asks you for references and you state yes, but they're from another state and they say no, I can't hire you. Are you familiar with that situation happening, or how would you maybe approach that situation if that is their response to your answer on references?
I have not heard of that, and I wouldn't consider myself a HR professional, and legally speaking, what that means, I've not heard of that before. I think that anytime somebody gives me or a client of mine a hard no, or like a hard answer, I always encourage people to follow up with more probing questions. So, okay, no, can you tell me a little bit why? Can you tell me a little bit why references in Florida are important to you? Um, and if they say it's because of certain laws or safety protocols or things that you need to know in Florida, it says you can then respond with, okay, are there training courses or certification courses that I can take that are Florida specific? Right. So it's asking, I think, some more probing questions to understand why, so that you can figure out, maybe there is an opportunity for you and they bizarrely need contacts in Florida. But most likely there is something going on that you can fill the gap with, that you can kind of figure out. But you have to ask those probing questions to understand what that is.
Yeah, that's great advice. Um, advice would you have someone who, they're asking sort of how they would keep up their position when the employer does not want to train them properly?
Mm. Training is a common challenge and not something that I think enough employers invest in, though there are quite a few locally who are really powerful at it. I think the first step is to ask the employer, right? Say, you know, in order to do my job effectively, I feel like I need and you can kind of share a list. I need some training on this, 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 and this. So it's to ask and say, is there an opportunity for me to get that type of training? If they say no, we don't have training programs, you can then perhaps propose a solution of, is there a more tenured person on the team who might be able to mentor me or who I might be able to shadow? Is there an opportunity for us to spend some one-on-one time to learn some of these areas? And so to ask for that training and what specifically it is that you need and propose a solution to it can be, I think, a really powerful strategy. It can be really demotivating to be in a job where you don't feel like you are set up for success, right? The whole learning on the job thing is incredibly hard. And so if you are finding that resistance is pretty consistent and it's having an impact on you, it may be time while you have that job to be sourcing another job. And in any interview processes that you're doing, asking those questions. How do you train your employees? I have found that it's really important to me to be trained and to be invested in and to know that I have like a path of growth here. How do you train your employees? And so you are finding that that's an important part of a workplace culture for you. And so as you're vetting future opportunities, it's making sure you're asking those types of questions to see if it would be a good fit for you.
Right. Absolutely. A couple questions here that I'll go ahead and answer is related to how you get a copy of this presentation. So again, I will be emailing out the recording and Hannah's presentation within 48 hours to everyone that registered. So you will get a copy of this within 48 hours, hopefully sooner, where you can rewatch this webinar and review Hannah's presentation and toolkit. So I just wanted to address that real quickly. Another question here, Hannah. There's some concern of employers Googling an applicant's name. And it's showing up with their house, their picture, their family information, voting registration. And so they're sort of asking, is it okay to change their last name on their resume? Like, what advice would you have for that?
That is a really good question. And again, I am not an HR professional and like legal professional, so I don't want to answer that confidently.
Sure.
I mean, a couple things I will say is that if you have your full address on your resume, take it off. You can put the city you're in and state, and that's it. If you have like your year of graduation from school on your resume, you can take that off, right? So that kind of gets into the ageism thing. What we're doing is we're trying to eliminate any sort of subconscious bias that's happening for a recruiter or someone who's reading your resume. So if you're removing some of those pieces, it's not required in there. But I think, Brent, that specific question about changing a last name, I think if we can follow up with that at some point, I will look into it.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough question because I don't know, like you said, we're not HR professionals and what that looks like. But thank you for some other tips there. Last sort of question thought we have is from an attendee that, has been applying online over 1,000 jobs in the last year and a half, two career fields to choose from, has rewritten their resume countless times, feels like they've done all the coaching programs and is still having trouble getting hired. And so they're really asking, what's going on with the job market in our area and where companies advertise they are hiring, but never seem to select anyone, or they already have plans to hire internally and are still marketing externally. What advice would you give?
Mm-hmm. It's incredibly frustrating, I will say, right? It's incredibly frustrating. And with all of the changes in technology that are happening, as we think about AI, as we think about these job boards, right? It's frustrating, right? To figure out how to crack the code. And I wish there was, a sort of silver answer right at the core that could do it for you. Use ChatGPT to create your resume and your cover letter, and boom, you'll get a job. But that's not how it works. And with all of these resources out there, it's like, well, it should be, right? There's all these job boards. I should be leveraging them. I should be using them. I should be able to find a job through them. The challenge is, as this person highlighted, we don't know what's going on the other side. We don't know what's really going on with that business. Sometimes businesses post ghost jobs to stay within the algorithm of that job board, right? Sometimes to the point they hire internally and are just posting it from a legal standpoint. I would encourage you to notice this feeling of frustration and perhaps anger, and then kind of let it go. It's not going to serve you well to spin your wheels trying to figure out what's going on in the market and continue to get frustrated by some of the admittedly inequitable practices that are occurring. And so instead, I would encourage you to focus on that first part of where we spent our time this morning, which was the networking. You can interact with people in a much more productive and meaningful way than you can with a robot. And so it might be to shift your strategy. Instead of applying to thousands of jobs online, do a more strategic and targeted application process with 5 in-person people. There's some really interesting studies that have been going around. A woman, for example, did literally, I think, 1,000 job applications and didn't hear back from a single one from an online job posting. She reached out to 3 people in her network, got interviews with all 3, and job offers at 2. And so that is, yes, a unique case, but it's a mindset shift, I think, of, okay, some of these tools can be helpful in some ways, but I'm going to go old school and I am going to build relationships with people I know who know the quality of work that I do, who know how powerful I am as an asset, and have them speak for me for these hiring managers when they are hiring for jobs, when they are looking for people to add to their team, so that I am on the radar. That is going to be a much more powerful use of your time than the disappointment that comes from being ghosted from online job boards.
One last question here, Hannah, and then we'll wrap this up. And this may be a little difficult to answer. Again, I apologize to the attendee because we are not HR professionals, but the question is, how do you handle sexual harassment with a job you love? They don't want to lose their job, but are clearly experiencing something of that nature.
First of all, I am sorry that you are facing this and going through this. And there are a lot of resources that are here to support you through this process. Women's Resource Center is one of them that I would recommend connecting with regarding, yes, the logistics of the job stuff, but also how you're doing emotionally and physically and personally. So that is step one, is to take care of yourself and find some folks who can help you navigate this on a professional level. Your first action step really is to talk to HR. Legally speaking, and again, I don't want to get too much into it, but you should not be the person who has any sort of punishment or any sort of negative impact coming out of this situation, like losing your job. So this is something that your HR department is a good first step in that process, to find an advocate and to understand what are the internal action steps that need to happen here. But that is a incredibly challenging situation, and I apologize that you are facing that, but you are not alone in the process.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, as we're over on time a little bit here, and we've finished answering all our questions, I want to let everyone know to remember as soon as I end this webinar, that survey will pop up, and we really, really appreciate your feedback. I want to thank Hannah so much for presenting today on all these valuable insights on how to land a job. So thank you again, Hannah, for your time. For your work in putting this together, and thank you everyone that attended. And like Hannah mentioned several times, don't hesitate to reach out to the Women's Resource Center. We are here not just for career services, we have mental health services, we have all sorts of services. So when in doubt and you're not sure where to turn to, give us a call and we're going to do our absolute best to help you. So again, just thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. And again, you can expect an email with the recording and the materials that were presented within 48 hours.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate all of your thoughtful questions and all of your insight. And I'm wishing you all the best. You've got this.
Yes. Thanks so much, Hannah. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.